Hello friends and greetings for the day. Welcome back to another tutorial on ISTQB Specialist Performance Tester certification. We are in chapter 4 talking about performance testing task, continuing ahead with 4.1, which is planning, and moving to the subsegment of this particular segment, that is 4.1.2, the performance test plan, which is actually going to tell you the detailed understanding of how exactly test planning is done for performance test activities. To begin with, the very first thing to understand is the performance test plan, setting up the initial objectives, which we have also covered as a part of previous tutorial, but here in more detail we'll be understanding in order to get into the depth of it. So the performance test plan, which can be now referred as PTP, is a document created prior to any performance testing occurring. The PTP should be referred to by the test plan, which also includes relevant scheduling information. So no matter whatever you are trying to talk about, you're trying to consider in terms of your performance test plan, you need to make sure that it is well aligned with the overall test plan of the testing lifecycle, because the master test plan will consist of information that when and how the performance test will begin in the cycle, and making sure that everything is being aligned those to other schedules of your entire testing. Now it continues to be updated once performance testing begins. The following information should be supplied in a PTP, which is performance test plan. And what are they? Of course, the objective. The overall objective of performance test plan describes the goal, strategies, and methods for the performance test. It enables a quantifiable answer to the central question of the adequacy and the readiness of the system to perform under the load. Now, which is an overall goal, and of course that can be defined that what is that at the end of the performance testing we need to achieve as a team, and provide that to the customer or other stakeholders by covering them one or the other way in our given scenarios, and must be considerate about every single thing which you are trying to cover and meeting the expectations. The second important thing is the test objective. Overall test objective for performance efficiency to be achieved by the system under test are listed for each type of stakeholder. So previous tutorial we understood that how the business stakeholders and technical stakeholders can contribute here, and the test objectives will be summary of both the inputs. System overview, a brief description of SUT will provide the context for the measurement of the performance test parameters. The overview should include a high-level description of the functionality being tested under load. Now, system overview will just talk about the system, like the application which you're testing, and what kind of architecture, what kind of behavior it does have, and high-level description of the functionality which you are going to test. So the performance testing team is being aware of that what this application is exactly supposed to do. Types of performance testing to be conducted, because not every time any application has all the performance testing types in scope. So you need to determine whether what type of testing will be conducted, including load, stress, volume, scalability, spike testing, endurance, and so on. So the types of performance testing to be conducted are listed along with a description of the purpose of each type, that what is the scope and why are we conducting them. Also, to add, for each and everything what you plan for, you must have an acceptance criteria well determined for that, because finally at the end of the day your efforts will be considered as done or will be accepted based on the acceptance criteria. So no matter whatever objectives, whatever activities, whatever performance requirements you have to be executed, each one of them must have a clear acceptance criteria being defined, which are the expectations from the customer in order to meet the end goals. As far as your acceptance criteria is met, you are done with it. So acceptance criteria, performance testing is intended to determine the responsiveness, throughput, reliability, and or scalability of the system under a given workload. In general, response time is a user concern, throughput is a business concern, and resource utilization is a system concern. Acceptance criteria should be set for all relevant measures and related back to the following as applicable. And what are they? Overall performance of the test objectives. So no matter whatever you are targeting as a part of your performance test must be linked back to the relevancy of the test objective, and similarly to the service level agreement. in short called as SLA as well, and baseline values, where a baseline value is basically a set of metrics used to compare current and previously achieved performance measurements. This enables particular performance improvement to be demonstrated, the achievement of the test acceptance criteria to be confirmed. It may also be necessary to first create the baseline using sanitized data from a database where possible. So it generally goes from the release point of view that for each of the releases, you may have multiple baselines to be referred to and align them to that or refer them to that. Like based on these baselines, we are trying to cover this part of testing in this particular cycle. The second important thing here is the test data. The test data includes a broad range of data that needs to be specified for performance testing. Of course, it's just not the same for the functionality what you use. But when it comes to performance testing, it might be possible that you are trying to run several iterations of a particular action, but different users are performing that simultaneously. So maybe, one iteration, one test being iterated 3 times, but being performed by 10 users to total 30 transactions, and you may use 30 different set of data for all these iterations. So you just have to define that, like what sort of data you will be utilizing in order to conduct these tests, and what kind of data will be available for you, and have you really validated them to meet the expectations. Further to add, of course, this data can include a lot of things, including the user account data, the user input data, databases as well. For example, account data means that user account available for simultaneous login or not, like they are registered and there are valid users. Then user input data, which they apply during the process, like entering fly from, fly to city, and so on. Databases, the pre-populated database that is populated with data for using in testing, which is like drop-down list or any other thing which you can actually find while using the application. Further to add here, of course, to continue on the test data creation process should address the following aspects, because it's really hectic to understand that what sort of data would be required. So of course, during the creation of the test data, there are a lot of things to be taken into account and consideration. For example, data extraction from production data is that you're going to make use of a real-time data, what is being supplied by the tool itself or the application which you're testing. So you can definitely extract all those information from SUT. Importing data into the SUT, if it is going to be an external thing, then of course you can decide about the ways by which you will be uploading the data to the SUT so that when you run the test, the data is available. Creation of new data, creation of backups that can be used to restore the data when new cycles of testing are performed, and data masking or anonymizing. Now, this practice is used on production data that contains personally identifiable information. So because production data means a real-time user details are available here. So you need to have some kind of masking done on those sensitive information of the real user so that it's not publicly disclosed, and anonymizing generally hides all the information and does make sure that things appear, but does not disclose them on the front screen. So we do have there is a guideline called as General Data Protection Regulation. However, in performance testing, data masking adds risk to the performance test as it may not have the same data characteristics as in the real world use. So a lot of such things has to be taken into account just from the test data point of view, that how will you extract it, from where will you have the data, how will you import it back to the SUT, and then making sure that it is available when you are running a test on that, and similarly, lot many other considerations to take into account. Further to add, to include in the test planning part is the system configuration, that how do you set up your environment to run those tests, and what kind of requirements you will have from the point of setting up the environment and configuring it all together. So the system configuration section of the performance test plan includes the following technical information, that is a description of the specific system architecture, including the server. For example, what kind of website, what kind of web portals you're going to use, database, load balancer, any sort of such architecture which is going to be utilized as a part of your performance framework setup will be identified and defined. Definition of multiple tiers, that how many layer of tiers do you have between the presentation and the database, and those middlewares are well established or not, or probably your script has to penetrate through all these layers to reach out to the database and does not mark you forbidden at any point of time. Specific details of computing hardware, which is like, of course, your CPU cores, number of RAM, amount of RAM, the SSD, the HDD, including all the versions which are possible to determine the ease of access. Specific details of the software, for example, application, operating system, database versions, services used to support the enterprise, including their specific versions as well. External system that operates with the SUT and their configuration and version. For example, we are talking about the COTS, commercial off the shelf, and e-commerce system with integration to NetSuite. So any sort of such external integration which happens must be taken into account for the system configuration. And SUT builds or version identifier at any point of time so that you can easily detect that are you still working on the right version, or there was a new build release and you're just running something which is not going to be considered. When it comes to the test environment is often a separate environment that mimics the real production environment, but at smaller scale. The section of the PTP, that is performance test plan, again should include how the results from the performance testing will be extrapolated to apply to the larger production environment. With some systems, the production environment becomes the only viable option for testing, but in this case, the specific risk of this type of testing must be discussed. Now, of course, we do understand when we are talking about a system like Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, and you're talking about at least 100 million people using that product at any point of time. Now, I cannot, even if I try to, populate that load in a virtual environment and see how exactly the system behaves. Probably you may not be having so many scripts running simultaneously on a virtual test environment. So it does mean that you might be reducing this production environment into the smaller scale, being called as the test environment, and trying to multiply these statistics to that many times based on the scale which you determined, and see that whether it's going to really fit the purpose or we are still meeting the expectations or not. So at this point of time, when you're trying to scale down your production environment into the test environment, you need to consider all possible risks which can happen with the measurements and the statistics which you generate, and how will you come to that conclusion based on the derivation of these outcomes, that are you really meeting those deadlines or those SLAs and thresholds of the given requirements. Further to add, of course, there are a lot of test tools which we can talk about, and the test tools include the performance testing tool, or we talk about any such things which are going to help you to create your entire framework. So in test tools, it includes a description of which test tools and versions of that will be used in scripting, executing, and monitoring the performance test. Now, this list normally includes tools used to simulate user transactions, tools to provide load from multiple points within the system architecture, tools to monitor system performance, including those described above under system configuration. So we do have tools like, to prepare the script. Second is, of course, to apply the load. And third is to analyze the outcome. So generally, most of the tools which you use like JMeter or Load Runner comes with all these pre-inbuilt options that you really don't have to go to configure different set of tools to do this job. You just find them, everything well within. So you just start with the VUGen component to prepare your script, go to the controller, run the scenario, apply the load, and then analysis to analyze the outcome. The other important thing here to talk about is the profiles. Like operational profiles provide a repeatable step-by-step flow through the application or a particular usage of the system. Aggregating these operational profiles result in a load profile, putting it together like commonly referred to as a scenario. So setting up all those scenarios which will be running and executing in order to identify the outcome of it. And that's pretty important in order to make sure that you are covering everything what is being expected here. Relevant matrices, of course, we have been talking about matrices in the chapter 2, and we have dealt with it and have understood a lot about that, how a matrix can be selected, how a matrix can be calculated, how the matrix can be aggregated. So this all will be done as a part of the test plan of the performance. Also to add here, we are giving some typical matrices for your information that what kind of matrices can basically be used during the performance test. So following table shows a typical set of matrices for performance testing and monitoring. Test objectives for performance should be defined for these matrices wherever required for the project. For example, the first table shows you the list of performance matrices, which basically help you to identify the statistics from the execution point of view and helps you out the outcome of what exactly has happened. So virtual user status, like number of users which you applied or imitated, whether how many of them have passed or failed. Transaction response time, like being on the lower limit, minimum, maximum, average, 90% percentile. Transactions per second, passed, failed, or like pass per second, fail per second, total per second. So generally transaction per second is measured in terms of pass, fail, or errors, and total. Hits, of course, hits per second, which could be also further measured as minimum, maximum, average, and total. Throughput, which is bits per second, which definitely measures again minimum, maximum, average, and total. And HTTP response per second, which goes with the responses per second, again minimum, maximum, average, and total, plus response by HTTP response codes like 200, 404, or any other thing like 503 and so on. So what kind of response code we have received from these APIs. Also to add, like performance monitoring matrices are separate than the performance matrices. For example, like CPU utilization, percentage of available CPU during the runtime of a scenario, and whether it exhausted, and that because of that a lot of things got degraded in terms of response time or failures of the V users. All these can be observed. Similarly for memory usage, which is your RAM or any sort of other virtual memory, so percentage of available memory used at any point of time to come out with a conclusion. Finally, to talk about the risk involved in the performance test plan, we do consider and target the possible risk areas which might be important for us to plan our execution accordingly, and also look forward to have the mitigation plan in action so that we can make sure that most of the risks are mitigated. So risk can include areas not measured as a part of the performance testing, as well as limitations to the performance testing, probably including external interfaces that cannot be simulated, like you don't have the application right now with you or the integration not yet done, you're just trying to test it without them. And inefficient or insufficient load, which you cannot populate or produce, inability to monitor the servers. So limitation of the test environment may also produce risk. For example, insufficient data, scaled down environment, and so on. So it's just like putting it together that the risk is another factor to be considered when it comes to the planning for the overall performance testing. And we do make sure that all these things come into the scope, and we do target them to be considered right at the beginning during the test plan. Well, so that was a little longer tutorial to talk about the performance test plan in more detail. So that's all from this particular tutorial team. Should you have anything else, feel free to comment below. I'm always there to address your queries and answer them well. Till then, keep learning, keep exploring, keep understanding the context. Thanks for watching the video team, and happy learning.